Hello,
Hello.
welcome back. I'm Paco again, and I welcome you to the 8th episode of our food talk. The guest of today is Bistra Ivanova from Sofia, Bulgaria, and she's the co-founder and the social entrepreneur in Multi Kulti Collective from Sofia. Welcome, Bistra. Thank you for being here today.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
How are you? How is going?
Perfect. Very, very nice. It's a beautiful day in Sofia.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Here in Berlin is not so nice, so we are expecting a storm in like an hour. And this year in Berlin, apparently summer they forgot to come, so we're just waiting. But beside the technicalities about the weather, I wanted to ask you, please, to introduce yourself and to our audience, you and your work, because it is very interesting. And already for the little hints I got, checking out the website, having a little talk to you. So I'm very excited, and I would like you to introduce us and to explain what is your role in Multikulti, what is your story related to the food. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Perfect. Well, as you already said, I'm one of the co-founders of Multi Kulti Collective, which is a Bulgarian NGO, non-profit organization, which started in 2011. And I'm very happy to be part of your project because our starting point was about food. As you can see from the name, Multikulti, it's about multicultural, it's about different cultures, it's about bringing people together. So our collective is composed of Bulgarians, migrants, refugees, all together. So in the last more than 10, 11, 12 years, we are working on the topics such as integration, diversity, promoting human rights, cultural integration, social cohesion, different innovations, etc., etc. We're based in Sofia, but in 2015, we grew up as a social franchise in different Bulgarian cities. So some of our good practices, and they are related with food, so maybe we are going to speak a little bit more about them. But we were able to make like guidelines and to make it as a franchise so that they're applied in different contexts, using the local community and serving the local needs and the local development. And besides that, I'm also an expert in the field of migration. I'm a researcher. Together with Multikulti, we do different projects related to different studies, monitoring of integration policies, doing high-level advocacy with the main stakeholders, the ministries, the UN agencies. And we're also pretty strong in the developing communication campaigns. Again, some of them are related with food, so I will tell you a little bit more about that. And last but not least, we have a social enterprise, which is also related with food. So we provide catering services together with migrants and refugees in Sofia. So plenty of topics to speak about.
So see, you combine the different social aspects and like you gather all together around the topic of food in different ways. But actually, so I wanted to ask you, before actually talking with Multikulti and everything, also knowing your background, how did you start to approach the food world and said, okay, I can apply different knowledge and different discipline together with food experience, for example?
Okay, so I personally have a very strong connection with food and a personal story, because when I was still in high school, I was around maybe 16, 17 years old. I wanted to travel, but back in the days, first of all, Bulgaria was not part of the EU. They were not the low-cost companies that we know nowadays. Of course, I was in school, so I didn't have money. So I wanted to travel, but I didn't have the means yet. So I started to actually go to different foreign restaurants. I was collecting my pocket money every month so that then I can afford to go to a nice restaurant like Indian or Japanese or Hungarian or Italian, whatever there was available back then in Sofia, I would like to go there. And for me, that was a super interesting way to get to know other cultures, because these restaurants, it's not only about the food itself, but it's also about the atmosphere, the music, the decoration, the people who serve you there. So for me, it was like a small doors to different countries. And then later on, when I met my colleague, Zvezda Ivanova, she's also one of the co-founders, we found out that we have a common passion about migration and food. So this is how the first project started to come. In 2011, we did our first event, Multi Kulti Kitchen. We gathered the migrant community of different countries, and then around food, they would start presenting their culture, their food, their practices, traditions, etc.
I see. So yeah, as you were saying, everything started from this migrant interest in field, and then you combined all together, and then so you founded together Multikulti. And what was the process? What was your journey? How you started your activities? And then I would like really to know more about your activity. I see different. You have really many activities from the website that are food related. Then I would like to really know more about that.
Okay, perfect. So the project started as a volunteer grassroots bottom-up initiative. So we started with this format that we invented, the Multi Kulti Kitchen. It's one afternoon where different migrant communities host this event. Could be the Peruvian, Afghan, American, Congolese, from all over the world. And then the community would decide what exactly they wanted to do. So even since the very beginning, we saw our role as empowering, as co-creative, as working together with the people to connect and to make something together. It was not us telling them what to do, but also seeing what they can offer, what would look good, how to support them, how to make it happen, etc., etc. So in the beginning, it was, I think that people had to just pay, let's say, €2, like entrance fee to cover the cost for the food. But at the end of the day, we had to collect from our pocket money to see if we made it like the balance. So this continued for, let's say, maybe around 2 years. A few times, let's say once per month or once every 2 months, we would organize such an event. But with time, it started to become more and more interesting. There was a lot of media interest. There were all the TVs and radios and magazines coming to cover our events. And then we also realized that after meeting so many migrant communities, there is a strong link with restaurants, with shops. It was always about, okay, how do we find this special ingredient? Can you connect some with some chef so he can cook the food? So we also started to map even in our heads what are also the restaurants, and this is how our second project got born. It is the Multi Kulti Map. Back in the days, so our first Multi Kulti Map was I think 10 years ago, so 2013. Back in the days, it was before the Syrian crisis. It was before these massive waves of migration. The topic of migration in Bulgaria was not so present because Bulgaria is not a very attractive country as such. It's not so well developed economically. It's not so popular. It's not so interesting. So basically, the diversity was not so visible in society. And therefore, with this map, we wanted to actually show to the wider audience, okay, look what is happening in your own city. You can travel without leaving your own city. And in this way, we were able to empower these migrant restaurants in 3 different ways. First of all, of course, it's the economical aspect. It would bring them new customers, because often these restaurants, they are small, they don't have the skills or the knowledge or the time to do marketing, to do social media. They're often, some of them don't even have an email. So now, of course, nowadays things changed, but back in the days, it was not so popular. So we were able to support their economical integration, but also their cultural integration, because we were going to make interview with them to help them share their story, what brought them here, what's the story behind their favorite dish. Is it from their mom? Is it from their grandmom, or from their dad or granddad? And, what's the culture of this country, etc., etc. And then there was another aspect, which was also the artistic aspect. We collaborated with a very, very interesting art collective, which is composed of people from different countries, Bulgarians and non-Bulgarians. So they would draw a portrait of the story of the person, not just the person with their big nose or glasses, whatever, but also something about them. So when we launched this Multi-Kulti Map, we did it in a very, very big gallery in Sofia. And imagine that the gallery would contain, let's say, 300 people, but there were 600 on the day of the launch, because it was like with the artwork on the walls. It was, of course, with trying different foods and drinks. So the interest was really huge. But imagine how it felt for a chef who spent all their life in the kitchen without being very special, without having any interest or from the media or something else, just a normal person, just to go to a gallery and to see himself as a piece of art. They were really moved. And of course, we gave them like a present of this artwork. They sent it to their families, etc. But at the event, there were people who wanted to make a picture with them, who wanted their signature. So suddenly they felt like rock stars. So, okay, nice. So this was this project is still going on, but they were like kind of connected. And actually, around this time, we also established the organization like formally as an association according to the legislation, so that we were able to start applying for some projects, having some funds to cover the costs, etc. And indeed, the topic of food has been present throughout all our activities in the last 12, 13 years. For example, very soon after, we started to organize cooking classes because people wanted to learn. They wanted to smell, they wanted to touch, they wanted to see different techniques. So we still do cooking classes up until the present day with like people from everywhere around the world. And this year we also innovated even a little bit more. So we don't only organize cooking classes for humans, but also cooking classes for dogs. And
this is very new.
Just in a few days, there's going to be a cooking class, how to make dog ice cream. Because obviously ice cream is not only attractive to humans, but also to dogs. However, with dogs, it has other effects, because when dogs lick, they get calmer, they get, they reduce the stress. So for dogs which are more reactive, or before they travel with a plane, or before they go to the groom, or before they take a bath, just to calm them, you can give them an ice cream so that they can lick, and it makes them calmer, for example. So this is also another side of it.
Okay, this is really new. This, this is the first time that I hear this kind of approach. I heard other cooking workshops specifically, for example, for dogs, but ice cream really first time I ever met that. So will be super interesting to see. Also, I wanted to, because honestly, I didn't find, or I just didn't notice on the website, but is it possible to find somewhere, for example, the pictures of the exhibitions you were talking about? Because it sounds very, very interesting. So I think we can also put that in the links.
With pleasure. Yeah.
Nice. Of course, as always, we will add all the links interesting from Multikulti and reference where you can find social media, Facebook, Instagram, websites. So I really invite you all to have a look and get in contact if you want to start a collaboration, or just if you want to know more about their jobs. And also, I see really, really a lots of interesting examples and replicable methodologies, I would even say. Just going through your website and having a bread. For example, I'm very interested, or I don't know if you're also responsible for this activity. I want just to ask this bread and stories, or the garden. Like there are so many that are very interesting.
So everything that you see on our website are either projects that we implemented alone or together with our partners. And the one that you mentioned, the Bread and Stories, was implemented with the Bread Network, which is founded in Bulgaria by a Bulgarian actually a researcher, Nadezhda Savova, who did her PhD in Stanford University. And she was able to conduct her research and to find out that in every continent, people have some sort of a bread. Could be from wheat, from rice, from corn, from all sorts of different grains. But bread is something which connects us as humans. So that's why we joined forces, so that we bring together people from different backgrounds with different abilities to make bread together, which is typical for their country of origin. We had, for example, bread from Lebanon, from Italy, from the US, from all sorts of different places. Could be bread or muffins or biscuits or pies, everything which is related to bread. And this happened in several Bulgarian cities, by the way, not only in Sofia. Another project that you mentioned was the Multikulti Urban Garden,
Yes.
where we went even back to actually start growing our food. So we gathered different migrant communities, and we gathered seeds and plants from different countries. We had chili peppers from Colombia. We had Peruvian potatoes. We got some Bulgarian green herbs. So basically, for one season, we were able to grow these vegetables and spices together, and then to use them in the cooking classes. It was also like this cycle where everything was also composted, and then it also went back to the soil. And this project actually even received the National Award for Project of the Year with a ceremony with the President of Bulgaria. So it was the social innovation of the year. Unfortunately, then COVID kicked, so we had to abandon our venue and our space. We were not able to continue working on this project, but still it was very successful and indeed could be replicated. And also because throughout all this work, we really want to change the narrative and to change the way that people think and speak about migration. And there, the food is also a very good tool. So a few years ago, we realized a very big national media campaign called Diversity is Tasty, where we worked with, let's say, 30 different migrants. We went there with a professional photographer to make pictures of their favorite meals. So we collected professional shots, the recipes, the stories. And then we provided this content to the biggest and the best national media partners. So starting from the Bulgarian National TV, Bulgarian National Radio, culinary magazines, culinary websites, all sorts of different media. So to be able to actually invite migrants to the table of the people. So we heard a lot of stories because it's often still the women in most cases who take care of the food. Luckily, more men are helping or taking over, but still, when somebody cooks for their family something new, it starts a conversation. Okay, mom, what is this? Well, this is shakshuka. It comes from Israel, and so it really starts this type of thing. So through this project, we were able to invite the flavors to the table of people who are maybe not necessarily interested in migration, integration. They just want to have a nice meal. So that was a very successful project. It also received a lot of international attention and awards and recognition from OECD, from the European Commission, from different institutions as a good practice, which is not speaking about pro or against migration, but just shows the positive sides of migration. So something tasty, something nice that we can all try.
I really feel connected to your different approaches that you have. First of all, on this combination, using the food as a dialogue tool somehow, no? Where you around that you can tell stories, you can exchange experience, you can learn from each other, just producing food together, growing food together, eating together. And also all your these approaches more artistic, combining photos, and so it's really close to my personal tastes and and approaches. I really feel close to you, and I hope we can find a way to collaborate in the future. Now also that we're having a chance to talk. And also I wanted to ask you now, in general, what is your vision for Multikulti in general? So where do you want to go? And then this can be a more tricky question, but like how can you define the impact you're having on your territory, on your surrounding? Because I think this is a very interesting point to take a moment and reflect on them.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it is really tricky because most NGOs work to solve a social problem. So in general, their aim is to stop existing at some point. If this project is solved, for example, there is no world hunger, or there are no homeless people, or there is no xenophobia, there is no intolerance. In general, the aim is to just build a better world. Of course, as the world is moving forward, there are new challenges emerging. But what we have chosen to work on is integration, is diversity, is human rights. And I think that these are values which are going to stay present in the human society for the decades and centuries to come. So as we see that the world sees more and more migration every year, it could be internal migration, could be external, could be migration within the same region, could be migration between different continents. And unfortunately, we see more and more cases where climate change is pushing people to migrate. It's either because of drought or floods or different catastrophes. We see that at least in Bulgaria, we have more and more migration every year compared to the previous years. Still, however, the migration in Bulgaria remains very low. So it's around 2% of the population are not born in this country. And in this number, I also include EU citizens and third country nationals, including refugees and asylum seekers. So funny enough, studies show that the majority of Bulgarians do not know any foreigners. Between 90 and 95% have never met a foreigner in their life. It is because migration is often, it's mostly the capital and the big cities which attract migration. So within the country, yes, there might be some people who live there, but it's not so well spread or not so evenly spread. It means that then the media has a very important role in how we see migration, what we think about this phenomenon in general. And unfortunately, as in many other countries like Hungary or Poland or Italy, there are, also in Germany, there are growing far-right parties which use migration as one of the tools to attract political support. This is also happening in Bulgaria. We have a far-right party which is growing stronger, and it goes against different minorities, LGBT or migrants or refugees, etc., etc. So we see that we need to keep working in this area. I think that our work will never be done, but let's hope that someday it will. There's also a big phenomenon of hate speech, which is growing towards different minorities. So we just hope that we can continue working for better social cohesion. As I mentioned, most people do not know migrants. So that's why we want to create these spaces for personal interactions, for not, having somebody tell you how things are, but you can see from yourself. And for example, we realized another very big project, a very big media campaign called Migrants Got Talent, which gives the space for migrants to show what they do. It could be in the field of food, but also in business or art or culture or sports, could be many different ways. But there we also collaborate with the media. So instead of having this debate pro or against diversity, migration, etc., we just give the word to these people, to these professionals, so they can speak. For example, the girl with the dog ice cream, she's actually a dog trainer. She's from Poland. She is trained as a professional dog specialist. And this is also her way to support the local community with sharing for free her language, her skills, her knowledge in the local language. So in this regard, we would like to also empower. For us, this is really important because some of the people that we work with, they have never been on the TV. They have never been on the radio. They have never organized an event for, let's say, 10, 20, 30 people. For them, it's a step outside of their comfort zone. But when they receive support, when they feel appreciated, when they feel that they belong, that somebody really wants to hear what they want to say, it also supports their integration. And in this also way, they become some sort of a mediator between them as the more successful and interesting ones. But they also support their other fellows from Poland or from Afghanistan or from Syria, from Colombia, it doesn't matter, from every country that they have friends, and then they become some sort of a speaker or mediator. And when you ask about impact for any non-profit organization and for any social issues, it's very difficult to measure. Of course, as I mentioned, we use some tools, we do some monitoring, but it's about qualitative tools or qualitative methods, not so much quantitatives, because we can say how many people we reach, how many people came to our events, how many media partners we have, how many migrants we were able to empower. But in society, this is difficult to measure. I just hope that we contribute to society which is growing more open, more tolerant, more positive, more welcoming, and in general, just more suitable for human livings, because it's actually interesting, because Bulgaria is a country which sends a lot of migrants abroad. So the Bulgarians know how it feels to be a migrant in a foreign country, not to know the language, not to have friends, to be looked down because you come from Eastern Europe, etc. So I think that there's also this human desire to show hospitality, to be welcoming, etc. So what I can say is that we have worked with some people for more than 10 years. Actually, today I want to show you, I even wear this t-shirt. This is one of my friends. He is a refugee from Iraq. He is from Baghdad. His name is Freddy. And he is a chef. He is one of the people that we worked the most, also on catering, on cooking classes, on many food projects. But a few years ago, just before Christmas, because actually they're also a Christian family. They come from a Muslim country, but they are Christians. So a few years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, just before Christmas, their house was set on fire. Oh, wow. And they had to just run away without their documents, their phone, their money. They just went with their home slippers, and they just saw the roof collapses. And they were like, oh my God, like this is the second time where we lose everything, because they were refugees once already. So, of course, we didn't want to let them down. So we set up a fundraising campaign. And luckily, it was just before Christmas, so people were more generous. And we were so happy that in less than 1 week, we were able to collect money for a new house. So at the moment, they live a house which is funded by all these people who came to their events, who appreciate what they're doing. So such small things which haven't. This really makes me happy that there was really some impact. Somebody has a home, a family has a home because of the work that we have done, and it was all the media partners immediately supporting, making interviews, raising awareness. It became a national news, and so many people helped. Even if these are refugees, which are often considered as bad people or dangerous people, but not this time. Everybody was happy to help.
Okay, this is a really beautiful story. So thanks for sharing. And I was literally imagining something like this kind of impact. How do you, beside the measurement instruments, okay, we can measure how many views on a post we have, but it's not that. This is the impact that is really interesting. That that you build a connection with the people, and people can trust you, and they see you're doing a good job. There's something positive. So this is the impact we're hoping to have on the people around.
I can also share you something, because yesterday we had lunch with this guy here. Mm-hmm. We had lunch in his restaurant with some of our Polish friends. So there is one boy, his name is Marcin. He used to work in the kitchen as a student, so he also likes to eat. He likes to cook. In the last few months, we organized several culinary classes together, and there was always so much interest because, of course, you can welcome 10, 15, maximum 20 people, but not more because it's a kitchen. We have to have the space to cook together and to have the space to hear each other, etc. So now, actually, when he saw this high interest in his skills in the Polish cuisine, now at the moment he is thinking of opening his own restaurant. And yesterday we had a meeting to try to support him. So there are many different ways which fall completely outside of the scope of our European projects and the measurements and the evaluation and what we are expect to deliver. But there are many additional effects that we can observe. And I think that they are indeed the ones which matter the most because they can really change human lives.
Okay. Okay. I think we can actually use these two beautiful and really inspiring examples and stories that you are sharing for wrapping up and closing our conversation. I want to thank you again for being here. Thanks a lot for your enthusiasm, and you're very engaging. So it's really inspiring to listen to you and your passion. So I'm sure that there will be some interest also coming as a result of of this our conversations. And again, I won't remind that sorry, sometimes my English gets lost. I want to remind that we will add all the possible links in the YouTube page and the post, so you can get in contact with Bistra or con Multikulti in any moment. You will find multiple possibilities. And thank you again, and see you for the next episode.
Thank you. See you.
Ciao, ciao.